Fulcrum, a Star Wars podcast. Your way of tapping into the Force from a galaxy far, far away. Hello there.
Hello, what have we here? Here's where the fun begins.
Count me in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to Fulcrum, a Star Wars podcast. Today, we continue our coverage of The Acolyte. It is Season 1, Episode 4, titled Day. Another one of those single titles. Got a feeling we're going to get the night episode eventually with the dichotomy thing. I don't know. They're straying away from the 2-episode title thing, but we do, again, have that half-episode sort of vibe going on. Anywho, the episode was released yesterday on June 18th, 2024, and I'm fucking ready to talk about it. I'm Colton Robertson. I'm joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. How are you feeling about Season 1, Episode 4 of The Acolyte here?
Well, I liked the end. The end of the episode, it started to ramp up. And the later half of the episode, and I was like, okay, we're starting to steam up. We're starting to get good. But the first half, I don't know, it was just kind of seemed like a crawl. I don't know. I am very fresh off an all-timer movie for me, so I did go from peak to this for me quite. So not to say that it's bad in any way, but it was just
No.
the screenplay and the direction when compared to Steven Spielberg, I guess, is just kind of tough. But
yeah, it's tough for anything. That's tough for anything. But yeah, no, it took a second watch for me to be like fully satisfied with what I was watching, with what I was looking at. Because I don't know, it, like you said, at first it didn't sit 100% like, oh, this is it, you know, like this we built up a lot of momentum in the first few episodes, and it felt like it really, really slowed down. But what I will give it credit for, and I'm going to credit Claire Keischel and Cora Donna, the writers of this episode, for the character work. There's some really, really good character beats, some really good exploration of the characters in this first half, in their quest. You know, I like a good quest episode. You know, I'm a fan of a good quest episode. I think that the problems come from time constraints. You know, this was the shortest episode, hopefully, of the season. 33 minutes. That's including credits.
wow.
So
I guess
27 minutes ish. And I think it suffers a bit from being like, all right, so May and Kymir, their side of the story, dope. Like, I think that was well paced, well done, really, really well executed. When you get to the Jedi side of things, there's a little bit too much crunch going on for me. There's a little too much, well, okay, we're on Coruscant. Here's the plan. What do we need to do? Okay, let's go. We're briefing. Okay, we're there. And it just doesn't, like, for as much character work as they manage for specifically Jackie and Osha, which is well done. It feels like there could have been more. It feels like it could have been even more. But what they did manage in the time allotted was very, very impressive. I did appreciate that a great deal. And I liked the direction by Alex Garcia Lopez. This, aside from last week, I would say is the best looking episode so far. I think that it is. I think it's really well shot. I love the aesthetics of the planet Kofar. I like that they're sets, and I can tell they're sets. You know what I'm saying? Like, in a lot of cases, like whenever they lose track of Basil and one of them is coming over the top of the trees and they're walking through this little tunnel and stuff, I'm like, yeah, that's tangible. That's there. I like that. I can tell that that's there, you know, and
nice. Yeah.
and it looks really good. So I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied ultimately. It did take that second watch where I was taking the notes to be like, oh, you know what? This episode hit a little bit harder than I thought it would, because I'm actually watching it with Emily. This is the first Star Wars thing Emily has ever attached to, that she's ever been like, I actually like this. I'm going to credit Amanda Listenberg and my girlfriend's bias for loving.
There we go. Yeah.
Loving that.
Boom. You know, Star Wars has been too straight for too long. Maybe now we're getting I don't know. It's like Taylor Swift fans included in the NFL now. It's like
Exactly.
everything. There's fans that are coming from everywhere now.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is
yeah,
cool,
no.
but-
So,
Hmm.
but even at the end of the episode, we both went, "What the fuck?" You know, like we both like were like, and not a. I mean, obviously a little disappointment that we didn't get more, but not because that's like shitty quality. Like that's good TV. You know, cliffhangers are classic television.
Yeah.
So like, it's not like I can be mad at it. It was just like, oh no,
That's when it was juicing up, you know.
Yeah,
It was like it
yeah.
was just getting juicy. And I think you brought up a point of how like the Jedi side of the story was very fast compared to the just May's side. Which I think is because they had to have them meet at the same time. They had to have the timelines meet up to where the end of the episode could happen, and just so much more had to happen on the Jedi side of the story before they get to that point versus May is just taking a hike. They're already on the planet at the beginning
Oh
of the
yeah,
episode,
like, and that's
and,
for sure. And that's one of those things where, like, I'm one of my big complaints with most shows in the modern streaming era is that there's not nearly enough episodes. The biggest complaint I have about this episode is that it does feel like feels like a part of a whole and not a single episode. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't feel like it's supposed to be able to stand on its own. The last one did feel like it was able to stand on its own, and it was also not a complete story. Like, that's why I think it's an important emphasis. I'm not just complaining. I don't just have a complaint that this feels incomplete. The last one was obviously not complete, but it was done in a way that was fulfilling on its own. Like, this episode relies on another episode, and I don't think that any of the other episodes have had that. So, like, there is a little bit of a problem there. And, you get that problem whenever you're talking about an 8-episode series. If this is 10 episodes, maybe we get basically a full episode of May and them trekking through, and then the only storyline on Coruscant is them deciding the plan, and then maybe the briefing, and then the whole second half of this episode is its own episode plus the fight, in a separate episode, like, so there's just formatting stuff that when you are dealing with an 8-episode series, you got to make sacrifices. You got to make choices that, sometimes one part of the story isn't going to feel whole. And this episode just didn't quite do it for me in terms of feeling like a complete, well done piece.
Yeah, and it feel like with the title of just day, and then now at the very end of the episode, whenever May goes,
night falls,
he's here. Literally, you see the day
the darkness
fade,
fall.
and
the
darkness comes or whatever. So it's like it feels like next episode will be night, and we will just get the continuation of it. Because I thought at first I was like, since we didn't get the double episode name on episode 3, I was like, is episode 3 is Destiny and Day somehow? I'm like, Destiny's so long in the future, and then Day is living in the now, and I'm like, and then it didn't do it, and then I'm like, this. After the end of the episode, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, there has to be a part 2 to this, right? Like, I need this fight right now, because,
and I'm certain that we will pick this up. I saw speculation that was like, how much you want to bet that next week is the other flashback episode to just really, really salt the fucking wound on that cliffhanger. It won't be. My money's on Kogonada, who directed the last episode, will also direct the other one, and that's episode 7. So, like,
okay, that's right.
That's what I'm thinking. But maybe they do switch it up. Maybe they go, fuck it. He just directed two episodes. One of them was this. One of them was the other. There's no telling. But that would be a real momentum killer. That, like, especially given that this episode was absolutely half an episode. Not just like you are afforded the opportunity after episode 2 to do a flashback episode. We're at a proper stopping point. Couple missions have been complete. We're about to go to Kofar. Okay, like we're in between things. Let's go to the flashback episode. Man. Right now it would be like, okay, well, now you are just rubbing it in.
Yeah. And are they making it just crystal clear that, like,
That's the question. That is the question.
Is it so clear that it's a red herring, or is it just
the case? It's hard to tell, like, because right now, as far as the people we know, there is no more obvious and better candidate to be the Sith than Chimere.
It's impossible, dude. It's like
he gets tied up in the trees. He descends from the trees. There's a couple things in this episode breakdown, which we have here.
Oh yeah,
and I'll get to it.
True, I forgot we do that.
We do that. We got a scene by scene breakdown for those listening. Sorry that we got so eager, straight off the bat, but it was an exciting episode. It got us talking a little bit. It's while it wasn't as fulfilling as some of the other stuff we've watched, it's still
there's some stuff.
It's still Star Wars. It's still Star Wars, baby. I'm fucking with it. But yeah, let's begin. We start on the planet Kofar, where we see Kelnaka in Jedi robes approaching his home in the woods. He enters, and we see much on the walls as he decides to cook himself a meal, and including a carving of the symbol on May and Mother Anasea's forehead. So he's got that carved into the wall in a few different ways. We see a couple swirls there, not just one, but it's something he's been thinking about.
Practicing himself, or in memorial, like in memory of, because the music kind of made it feel very ominous, like very, I don't know, like this.
I take it to be he's haunted by it.
Okay,
that's kind of how I perceive that
from whatever happened.
Like, and it's just a further little, like, the music flair kind of made me go, okay, well, they're continuing the. Well, you see, he's thinking about it a lot. Like, everybody, like, there's no, like, something happened there. They're just going to keep going. There's something that happened there until we actually get what fucking happened. But, doesn't look good. And back on Coruscant, Jackie attends lightsaber training while Osha watches on. And on second viewing, I can tell you confidently, this was to display how much better Jackie is with a lightsaber than everybody else in the room. Like, she is fucking smooth with it. Everyone else is doing like two hands, and they're a little clunky. She's one hand, one wrist, going to town. So nice little thing that might give us a little hope going into next week as to who might be capable in a fight against the dark sider there. But after the lesson concludes, Jackie and Osha have a nice little farewell conversation. Osha thanks her for all she did in helping her clear her name, and Jackie inquires if she said goodbye to Sol, and she hasn't. She's caused him enough trouble, as she says, and she is surprised to see Osha go, but understands. And Osha taunts her, saying, "Don't tell me you'll miss me." And Osha explains that she just can't come face to face with her sister again, but when she's back on Coruscant, they'll go grab a drink and tell some stories about Sol.
I swear, Osha's hitting on Jackie every chance she can get, and Jackie's not reciprocating. It seems like, I don't know.
I think she's too
Padawan.
Yeah, like I don't think she'll clock some of it as flirting, but it's not even like a possibility for Jackie. Like, it's just she's just living. And
yeah.
Because there's a few points later on in this episode where they show their dichotomy as somebody who left the Order versus someone who's knee deep in it, and the way that they discuss anything. You know what I'm saying? And but there is a cute little moment later that I'm excited to point out, because Jackie's my character of the episode. I love Jackie in this one. When it came to this episode, I didn't think another character was kind of an option. She is definitely the one that gets the most interesting development. She was around for the first two episodes. She's smart. She's capable. But this one, you get a little bit more insight into who she is, and I think that was really appreciated. But I loved this little interaction. I love Daphne Keane. I think she's so good as Jackie, and acting across from Amanda Stenberg, who is doing just incredible in a double role. Like, so good that I forget they're in a double role. Like, it's
nuts.
Really impressive.
Yeah. That is. They are two different characters. Like, it's seamless. Like whenever you transition back and forth, you know exactly who. I mean,
Yeah.
the context, helps. Like one's with
Context
a group
helps.
of Jedi, one's
There's
with
slightly different
Yeah,
like
but
costume design helps and
yeah,
everything.
but
But like even so,
just the
when they come
cadence,
face to
I don't
yeah.
know, everything about there is a performance difference, totally.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's I don't know, I loved specifically this episode. I don't know, there are just little character things that are just really cool, and the character that I don't know, I focused on was Yord this episode. I think I'll just all the memes that I'm seeing of Yord. That's all just the funny,
The Yord
funny.
horde.
I love the Yord horde and all just the Yord memes. That come up in, but this episode, he knows like the language or whatever that Basil speaks,
Yeah.
and he has like a few good moments, and just I don't know if he feels like the constant for me in the show. He's just always Yord. As Jackie
will be a
says,
steady presence.
Like
there's no real.
He's
I'm hoping at some point there's a unexpected turn from him in terms of emotion. Like I do hope that there is something that flares up whenever he's getting like frustrated or something, and just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, like you are supposed to not be passionate as the Jedi you are. You are supposed to not be, you're not supposed to, but like one moment of a little flare up where he lets it go, I would like that.
I do have one theory finally. This is the episode that it hit me, and I'll wait until we get to the end, but I finally do have a theory that might explain possibly, but I'll wait.
Yeah, Osha asks Jackie out on a date for them to reconnect and tell stories about Soul. Maybe I'm misreading that. I don't think I am. It seems that she's hitting on Jackie a little bit. But after that, May arrives on Kofar by ship in the company of Kymir. And when May intends to just take off into the woods, Kymir warns that the planet is massively uncharted. But he's been here. He found the Wookiee Jedi. And she questions him. You went in there and risked your life for my master? And he goes, no, I did it to help you. And so, like, there's a few instances of this where he dodges questions about the master, and it could be just he's fearful of the master. Like, that's a scary guy. I don't want to think about him too much. And it could also be the obvious what they're actually doing, alluding to the fact that he is the Sith master. And there's a couple of those this week. But, he says, admit it, you need me. And he says that her sister being alive doesn't change anything, and she ignores him, and they make their way for the woods. But back at the Jedi Temple, an assortment of Jedi discuss May's potential training. Sol explains that she doesn't know her trainer, and they question if it could be a splinter order or worse. And this is in a conversation between a Jedi we come to know as Master Holden and Ki-Adi-Mundi from the prequel trilogy. That is actually him.
The dude's
and
old.
there's a lot of really stupid discourse from one side of the fandom about how this breaks canon for his age, etc., etc. There's never been a canon age for Ki-Adi-Mundi. It's all been legends, anything. So this doesn't break canon at all. What is more important is the continuity it doesn't maintain with the prequels. Which is that Ki-Adi-Mundi is the strongest opposition in the prequels to the idea that the Sith could possibly be around. Now, that could be a good sign for what happens in this show.
Yeah, maybe just a lot changes. Maybe that is a good sign, but...
Yeah, right.
Probably
so.
not, though. I guess
like, so, and that's
right
one of those
there,
things where I was like,
yeah.
But the way to spin it, however, Vernestra comes in talking about the cover, essentially, the cover-up they're doing, the internal investigation, what they're going to do. I think we've seen from Sol and from Indara and Kelnaka and Torben is that when you're in the Order and you're keeping a secret for the Order, you keep a secret for the Order. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it could be that he just sits with that secret for so long that he starts to believe it. And I feel like that feels kind of poignant as well. I could see that being a little bit more on the nose and thematically tying in with what the 4 Jedi that were on Brendok did. Because I mean, and there's a few instances
that
of
is
this
weird.
in the High Republic books when it comes to phase 2. I've told you about the nameless creatures, the ones who can like eat the Force. Essentially, they turn their victims into dust because they can siphon their Force energy from them. Yoda discovers their existence from one of the Jedi who fights them, and they decide to keep it under wraps. And then 100 years later, the nameless crop back up as a problem, and Yoda hasn't said shit about knowing what they are or having been talked to about it or anything. You know, like, so there's something with this era that I think continues to dilute the Jedi and what they stand for. You know, like, we are talking about the start of the fall of the Jedi. You know, like, they are not supposed to be on the top of their game. They are failing. You know, they are coming up short. So I think it's cool to consider that this is, and I think it was described as the beginning of the erosion of the Jedi Order with the Sith rising. And I could see them with their cover-ups and their concern for the politics and their all of that kind of being a major problem for them. But yeah, all that to say that Ki-Adi-Mundi's in this scene. And Sol explains that she's not a threat. You know, she's not disciplined. But Vernestra counters. She's killed 2 Jedi and eluded him. You know, Vernestra borders on confronting Sol, alluding to the oddity that she's coming after the 4 Jedi that were on Brendok. You know, he said, these 3 Jedi. And she goes, 4. You too, Sol. How odd. You know, like, she's like, what the fuck happened there? Kind of makes clear that even what happened on Brendok was not reported anywhere.
Yeah. Why didn't you let me go? Why didn't you let me know? And he's like, I did.
4.
He's like, I did let you know. He's
Yeah.
like, no, 16, 19 years ago or whatever. She's
Yeah.
like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever happened didn't escape the 4 of them. You know, they kept that shit on lock.
I think this secret, whatever this is, it's the weapon that the Master is wanting to kill the Jedi with. Like, maybe this secret is big enough to cause a ripple effect to take down the Jedi. Maybe not like just kill these 4 Jedi that are involved, but kill the dream. Like, they're killing the idea of the Jedi. They're unraveling it. You know, what they stood for is peace, whatever, but by putting themselves on every single planet and putting their noses in every single problem, you know, are they causing more problems than, I don't know. Like, I wonder, that could be, I guess, the Sith way of seeing it, you know, is that they're, just by putting themselves there, you know, they could have the right intentions, but I don't know. I maybe this is the legitimate start of the fall, because like by the time we get to the movies, we know like Jedis are like, there's not a Jedi on every single planet. You know, the prequels, I guess there's still a lot of Jedi, you know, and when we have that fight, what planet is that in Attack of the Clones? When just
Geonosia?
Yeah. I mean, there's
or Geonosis.
Yeah.
Geonosia is the X-Men island.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Would have been a cool crossover though.
Yeah, right.
But no, like, there's still a lot of Jedi, but they don't have the presence not even close to what we're seeing now. Like, this is a different level of Jedi, and they have to fall a long way to get to where they are. They're kind of seen as like hippies. I feel like in the movies we know, but versus here, they're definitely cops. Like, they're just definitely
they are the peacekeeping force. Like, they are.
Yeah,
that is their bag. Yeah, I'm excited to see kind of, and 4 episodes to kind of show what happens here. You know, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by how fast this season's moving and how much we've got left. We're already halfway through.
I guess.
You know.
This is halfway.
Yeah.
That is...
But I did want to go ahead and throw out my performance for the episode. Mine's Rebecca Henderson as Vernestra. Because first of all, I love Vernestra in the books, and it's cool to see her kind of brought to life so perfectly as what she would be this far down the line. You know what I'm saying? Like, it tracks so perfectly. There's no disconnect in my head between the character in the books and the character we're seeing on screen. Like, they feel like the same person, and I was worried about that. That was one of the things that coming into the show, I didn't have a lot of hope for. I thought, like, okay, well, it's 100 years later. She's going to be a fully grown woman and then some. So we'll see. But what she's managed to do as Vernestra, and the fact that she is the essentially leader of this, whenever everything happens here, Vernestra insists, like that, it's all good. We're done here. They need to handle this internally. A scandal could be detrimental. She goes, meeting over. And everybody's like, cool. And that's dope. Like, she's respected, she's listened to. But out in the hallway, Sol chases her down, and Vernestra confronts him. Why would he not tell her the girl could be alive? And Sol defends himself. He saw her fall. Nobody could have survived that. And all the while, Master Holden and Ki-Adi-Mundi listen intently. And Sol asks that he be the one who brings them in. But Vernestra insists his attachment is not a good thing here. She explains that she fears that May is only a small part of her master's larger plan. Something that will tip the scales, is how she says. Something, a shift. Something that will tip the scales. Tip the scales in the favor of the dark, which we know it does. Which is the shitty thing, like, there is a little bit of we know where this show can go, because we know this dark side thriving,
it could take a lot, it could be a lot long. We got a lot of time in between, but I mean, it's got to start somewhere. And this feels like that's why they're making this show, is to kind of highlight the start of the fall. But I don't know. Could just be the small side mystery, because I feel like Vernestra, like, her robes, at least, it just feels like she is just on the council. Those are just like high council robes versus the robes that everyone else is wearing, and I feel like that's just kind of like the way we know the Jedi function is they just have the Master Council and then just kind of like everyone else. I don't know, like it was, and then I guess there's knights and Padawans, whatever. But like this feels like there's a much more of a just military hierarchy. Yeah. And I don't know. Her robes are definitely a little different, a lot more knight. They seem like senator robes almost to me. So it is just really cool seeing this just different functioning Jedi Order. And then I don't know, like every meeting we saw was up in the council room, but they're having just as an important of a meeting in just kind of like a side room in the temple. And you got to imagine that like multiple of these meetings are probably going on. And then the master meeting is going on up. I don't even know, like, who knows? Like, it's just it's crazy the differences between the Star Wars that I know versus like, or just the council, the Jedi that I know versus the ones we're getting here. But I like seeing it though.
No, I love it. It is a bizarre dichotomy, like knowing where they devolve to. I would say, like, they feel much more powerful now. They feel like they have a handle on things a lot more, and it just sucks to know what comes of all of it. But Stoll argues with her that the only way to track down this master is to avoid hurting May at all costs. She will not surrender without something in return, like her sister. And then back on Kofar, Kymir questions, how do you kill a Jedi without a weapon? He speculates that as long as you engage unarmed, you may be able to kill them with their saber if you disarm them, maybe? Or is that cheating? And he continues that he's curious. She's failed so much. But she retorts that she hasn't failed. 2 Jedi are dead. And Kymir's like, nah, but she did it your way. Like, you gotta do this one right without a weapon. And when he drones on, she questions him. What kind of a deal did you make with him? She starts to get a little too like, fuck you know about it. Like, what's going on here? And Kymir says, it was no deal. I just owe him. He collects people, What the fuck does that mean?
I mean, if it is just the cover up for him, it's one thing. But if he's talking as him, saying that he, he collects people. Yeah, that's weird.
Like he's just got like a network essentially. Like people are drawn to him, and he keeps them in his web. He collects people. Like I owe him. What would he owe him for? You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, that's that's an interesting choice of words there.
Yeah.
Collect people. Yeah, I guess his web kind of makes the most sense. Unless it is
obviously not a literal.
It could just be literal bodies, like literal Jedi bodies. But
collects people. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but I did think that was a good choice of words there. And then, Osha asks if he's ever seen his face, and Chimera goes, I haven't. Hey, the wood line is over there. And Osha is like, okay. And she confides in Chimera that she can't believe her sister is Jedi scum. And Chimera says that it seemed like she was in over her head, and that she seemed fond of that one master's soul. And this gets an interesting reaction out of May. But back on Coruscant, as Osha makes her way to leave, she is stopped by Sol. He insists that she must come with him. She asks if he wants her to rejoin the Jedi, semi-excitedly, but he says not officially, and it's kind of deflating. Yeah.
But yeah, she doesn't want to wear these civilian
It's not
robes,
that she wants. It's not that she wants to be back in the Jedi, but I think she would like if Sol wanted her back in the Jedi. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's kind of the lingering sense of excitement you sense in that delivery. It's like, you want me to rejoin the Jedi? Like, you want that?
I see.
That's kind of how I take it. But maybe not. Maybe it was just a curiosity. But he says that when May saw Osha, her eyes softened. She became a different person. And he says that if she comes, they'll allow both of them to go. He doesn't want May to get hurt. There's still good in her. And Osha retorts that she's a murderer. And Sol corrects her, yeah, but she's still family. And Osha reluctantly agrees, so long as she doesn't have to wear a civilian robe. And we immediately cut to Osha wearing a civilian robe on board a ship in which Yord is given a briefing on their strategy on Kofar. I love a cut like this. It's always it always satisfies me.
Oh yeah. Editing comedy, is it's the few times an editor can get in a joke. I feel like, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Or where
there's actually I'm going to talk about this like it's nothing important. I actually watched The Fabelmans yesterday. And there's a moment in The Fabelmans whenever it's Paul Dano in the driver's seat, Gabriel LaBelle in the passenger seat, and he tells him, Dad, keep your eyes on the road. And then we cut to Paul Dano teaching Gabriel LaBelle how to drive, and he says, keep your eyes on the road, keep your eyes on the road. And then Gabriel LaBelle immediately starts talking about an editing machine. He immediately starts talking about how he wants this 16 millimeter movie editor. And it's like, it's such a perfect little meta moment where it's like, hell yeah. Like they know what they just did there. It's, I love that. But that's the power of editing. And I feel like this was a fun, like, cause the important thing there is that we also don't know what a civilian robe is. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
because of the cut and because of the tone and because we know what a civilian robe is, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's really cool and effective. But
yeah, I do like.
Anyway, Yord is explaining how no one has heard from Kelnaka in over a year, and he's been unresponsive to their warning transmissions, which to me indicates he didn't die too long after we saw him at the beginning of this episode. And then didn't seem like a fresh kill, if I had to guess so myself.
Seemed like he was sitting there, sleeping. Like, I feel like when we saw him walk in to his hut at the beginning,
yeah,
I don't even think that was really the same day. I don't know.
Right, right. It was just showing you who Kelnaka is and what his day-to-day is like.
Because what's the... Man, Chimera. Chimera says like, "Yeah, I've been here before," or whatever,
Mhm.
you know. And if he's to be the master, or whatever, like
True.
he
True.
said, you know, he came in, sliced him up already. Is that the point? Is that the whole? Was Kelnaka already dead from the start before, you know, May would have arrived to see? Like, yeah, I guess it like, or is I guess I'm kind of jumping the gun a little bit before we get there, but I'm just wondering if Kelnaka is dead before Chimera gets pulled up on the rope, or, you know, before they land. When is Kelnaka dead? You know, when?
Right.
When?
Well, there's a couple things here. If Chimera is not the master, which I'm simultaneously operating under the assumption that he is and that he isn't. You know, I'm like, okay, there's one half of my mind that's like, okay, well, he obviously is. The other half of my mind is like, okay, but if he isn't, there's a lot in this episode that gives Chimera a sense of urgency. Whenever May wants to rest, and he's like, we don't really have time for that.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, we need to go. You know, and he's looking up, he's looking around at the trees and stuff. If Chimera is not the master, he knows the master's there. That's the other part of this that I think is interesting.
Okay. That's his fear.
Now,
like, is that?
Yes.
Is he?
That's how I take it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like if Chimera is not the master, there is something to him that is helping May along, because he knows he's being watched helping May along. You know, like he needs to stay alive. He needs to do this. This is what he's doing. However, it could also just be another really good, you know, red herring for him being worried about the guy, but actually being the guy.
I was about to go crazy. I'm not gonna go crazy.
I'm not gonna go crazy. But anywho, after this explanation, all the while during this explanation, I should say, Pip and Basil have beef, and they hiss at each other. Pip sprays him with water, and Osha approaches Jackie to ask who the hell this little guy is, and and Jackie, like everybody should know, goes, "That's Basil." Doesn't elaborate. That is Basil. And Osha's like, okay. And Yord, teacher's pet that he is, asks if she has something to say to the class. And she teases him slyly, you know, "No, Master Yord, this is a very comprehensive briefing." And that gets a little smile out of Jackie, the way she kind of, she like puts her head down and kind of like curls her lip a little bit. She liked that response. But they arrive on Kofar, and Jackie asks the locals where Kelnaka may be. And meanwhile, Yord and Osha discuss her holding onto the weapon she was given 2 episodes ago on Olega, and Yord insists that she hand it over, as it is property of the Jedi Order. But he's interrupted by the roar of the local, who explains that Kelnaka ventured off into the forest and never came back. And the Jedi walk to the cliffside and go, "He's over there." And then where they like point to is just like a ton of fucking woods.
Well, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
We don't know.
He, you know, technically, yes, he is over there. But
no, they sensed
I just loved that.
You know, they had to.
They
felt
they did.
something. You know, it's
the Force is speaking to them. You know, he's that way. But luckily, Basil is there to track the Wookiee, or maybe to track May. Unclear. I couldn't really tell which one he was supposed to be tracking.
What did they give him to sniff? Little robes.
Looked like some sort of cloth.
I wonder what they got that from. Because
probably Kelnaka would be my guess. Because something they would have more access to directly.
I guess if did part of May's clothes rip off or something while fighting?
Yeah.
One of the 2 that she's killed already.
I mean, because he does find May and alerts them to May's presence specifically. You know, so like maybe it is May, but either way,
True.
it got the job done. But eager to track, Basil leads the squad, and Osha asks Yord about Basil. You know, do you know anything about the Basil? He goes, his name is Basil. And Yord says, well, a lot of younglings wanted to learn Shiriwook when they were younger. He learned a language that was worth it.
Let's go,
Useful
Yord.
language.
Let's go. I don't know. I love him. He's not annoying to me at all anymore. I actually fucking love his I love that he is annoying and this stickler and whatever.
He's the C-3PO of Jedi.
Yes, he's a human C-3PO, and I didn't want to say it out loud because it's kind of rude to compare someone to C-3PO because they are just kind of the, whatever. But you love him, you love 3PO anyways, and you're just I feel like he'll have that switch though. I feel like he will.
Well, and this is already there's a moment right here that is a little bit softer, that is a little bit more of a tone change for him. Whenever Osha continues the conversation by saying, "Soul thinks May can be saved," and Yord's like, "Master Soul's a wise Jedi. If he brought you, there's a good reason. May will probably listen to you." And Osha asks Yord again, though, that if she doesn't, that he will stop her. She won't be able to. She can't hesitate again. Mm-hmm. And Yord says that they have known each other since they were younglings, and May has always been her wound. Maybe Soul brought her here to face her, but maybe she brought her there to face herself, which is exactly right. Good job, Yord. You get a gold star.
That's right, Yord. I don't know. It was almost a line for me. I didn't want to stack the Yord too heavily.
Yeah, you didn't want to go too heavy on the Yords.
But it was a potential. And I wrote down just to make sure we at least talked about it. So I'm glad. Your breakdown, I feel like I should just trust your breakdowns now. Yeah, you're
pretty comprehensive.
You're gonna be comprehensive. But yeah, I love.
I'm too worried about missing things, so I end up I didn't initially intend to write down pretty much every line, but I kind of did. But
how long did that
later
just
on,
take? Random side
this one it takes about twice as long as the episode.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to rewatch the episode.
So this one was about 27.
And...
This one was about 27 minutes. So it was easy. It was a little under an hour that it took me. But when I did House of the Dragon earlier this week for Fire and Bloom, that took me a full hour and a half.
Yeah, that's those are beefy.
that was rough. But I was locked the fuck in for that. Like I went ham on that. I'm watching
that's
and it's
awesome.
yeah. But later on Basil leads them through a wooded area with mysterious stickies on the trees, and Basil says there's something wrong here, something rotten. And Soul warns they don't know and don't want to know what lives here, and Osha completely disregards this warning and touches one of the mysterious stickies, which curls around the tree and flies away. And it scares Osha, and she alerts Soul specifically. She yells for Soul, which I thought was cute. Soul, not like, hey, everybody.
It's like also kind of sad because she has like no one to yell for. Like usually that's like a mom or dad or someone and like
Soul.
She just has Soul.
Like that is her dad though.
True.
Soul draws his saber for the first time. Nice, bright, vibrant blue. And the Umbra moth, as it is called in the subtitles, flies directly into his blade, dying. And they continue their push into the woods, and Osha confides in Jackie that she sensed the creature. She sensed it, disturbed it, and now it's dead. And Jackie retorts that it is an honor to watch anything rejoin the Force. But that, she doesn't have as much experience with death as Osha. She's like, granted, you might feel a little differently about that. I could see that.
Yeah, a little different when it's this moth creature, whatever, versus my entire coven that I grew up with.
It's a lot. That's a lot.
But
this was very close to being my scene. I loved this.
Another kind of gripe I had a little bit with this one is it was a lot of telling and not showing, I guess, this time. Like, whenever the moth flew right into the saber, like, in the background you hear, like, oh, it was attracted to the light. It flew right into the saber. And it's like, okay, yeah, we saw that. Like, it was just little, and then I feel like there was one other one. Like, May's, I don't know. I guess I don't know if I do want, at the end, whenever May is like, he's here, whenever she says out loud, he's here, it's like she's in the room by herself, and she is that fearful of her master, I guess. But, like, I felt like a lot of times in the episode, it was a lot of exposition heavy, or times, maybe not exposition, but just times where, I don't know, they could have it was just a straight up, they were telling you what happened. I felt like there was one more other than the moth one. but it's not.
Yeah,
hitting
I'm
me
like the
yet.
he's here one. I kind of give a pass. I like the dramatic intent of that. I like that. This I think is important for next episode.
when
When
they
they're all in the
wake
dark.
up.
When they're all in the dark and there's no light besides the sabers.
Oh no, yeah, that thought didn't even cross my mind.
Because that's what Soul says here. He's like, we ought to get moving. It's going to be dark soon. You know, like, and then what light are they going to go to besides the light of their sabers when they need to know where they're going? So, like, that's what I'm a little worried about next week, is that the Master is already one problem, but there's a really good chance these Umbra Moths end up being, you know, a little bit more of a nuisance on top of it. But,
yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, can't wait. But, Osha tells Jackie that she was never able to accept death like a true Jedi should. And Jackie questions, a true Jedi? And I just heard, ba-doop-ba-doop-ba-doop-ba-doop-ba-ching! I don't know if you remember that on the Lego Star Wars game, like the swish, swish,
Oh,
swish,
True
swish,
Jedi,
ching!
when you get all the
True
coins.
Jedi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man. What a satisfying way to end a level. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that always
it's a good
ripped.
memory. It's
But,
a good memory there.
But Osha says she couldn't accept what she lost, how unfair it felt. The resentment she felt, but the missing she also possessed for her sister all at once. And Jackie assures her, with my favorite line of the episode, we're not defined by what we lose. We're defined by what we've survived. And you've survived a lot.
Damn, Jackie.
And again, another thing that just gives Jackie the character nod for me. I love that moment. But deeper in the woods, sorry about that, Chimera and May run through the foliage, and May finds herself with an opportunity to rest, as at the end of this trek, she must face a Wookiee. So, I'd like to rest, and Chimera is extremely eager and insists that they shouldn't stop, looking to the trees, worried. May says that this is not a test. Her master calls it the final lesson. Your final lesson is one you teach yourself. Attacking a defenseless person goes against everything the Jedi stand for. She questions aloud, how do you kill someone unarmed? It's not a test. It's impossible. And Chimera goes, it's not impossible. You know, like he's like, kind of, it's not like his guard, like his whole facade comes down or anything, but he is very suddenly a different demeanor. And his whole, like, he's like annoyed almost.
Yeah.
He's like, it's not impossible. You know, like,
I wonder if she's supposed to die. If that's the final, like, you're supposed to be completely defenseless and have a Jedi kill you. Like, you have no weapon and you make a Jedi somehow kill you. And then
that's how you kill a Jedi without a weapon.
Then, yeah, I don't. But then why have, I don't know, I guess, why have Kelnaka dead already then, you know, if that is the whole ploy to die, or I feel,
right.
Yeah, it is weird to have, I feel like the
notably,
death, I don't know, I guess we'll have to get there. Let's just get to the end before I start theorizing. But
yeah, she, you know, May fears that if she doesn't succeed, her master will kill her. She says that Chimera doesn't even care. But he denies that. He's like, I do care. And he's like, you know what? You're right. You need rest. I'm going to go find some water. I'll be right back. And May appears exhausted momentarily, but then she stands with intention, looking to the trees with an idea and a rope. And later, the Jedi lose track of Basil, and Yord suggests that they need a tracker just to track their tracker. And it is then that they hear May scream for help. And Chimera runs to help, but is trapped by her plan. He is hoisted from the tree by the ankle. And May taunts him. She says that after running through this forest forever and having all that time to think, she realized something. She doesn't have to do this. Osha being alive really does change everything. And Osha is where her loyalties lie, not her master. She's going to give herself up to Kelnaka, surrender to the Jedi, and that'll be that. And I loved this moment because I 100% believe her. She means this with her entire being. And I love that this takes kind of classic Star Wars stuff and flips it on its head. She's like, fuck it. Yeah, you know what? Love wins, not hate. I didn't know my sister was alive. Fuck yeah. This is what I'm doing now. I thought I was getting revenge for my sister being dead. You know, like
Osha's the one, like, I'll face her. She's a murderer. Like, I have to do, like, she's like, I'm ready. Like, I wasn't ready before, but I'm ready now. This is my test. And like,
right.
While May's the one, like, no, this isn't my test. This is, or like, maybe this is the test. You know, she's figured it out. This is the lesson she's teaching herself now. And I don't know, that's why I was either I gave Charlie Barnett the performance for Yord, just for kind of holding it down and just kind of just being the constant. And I was maybe thinking of giving him character as well, but for this switch up, I gave May my character this episode for this moment. It was really cool to see that kind of the switch of going the other way. Yeah,
it's not typical. It's usually, when we watch someone have a change of heart like this in Star Wars, it's a culmination. It is a, like, oh, I finally seen it. This is like, oh, yeah, no, this is simple, actually. Like, I was just doing this because I thought they killed my sister, but they didn't. So, like, we're good.
Yeah.
Fuck this. I'm out.
Oh, man. Yeah. This, I guess the flags are tending, or the signs are pointing towards, the killing of, man, I want to say Vernestra. I know it's not Vernestra. Kelnaka after this. Like, it was kind of like, if you're not going to kill them, fuck it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's much more likely. Okay. I think it happens between this and when May arrives.
Yeah.
And either Chimere just manages that really fast, or, his worry about them being up in the trees.
He's actually watching it, and he saw this moment. And he's like, okay, well, see, and then comes.
If you're not going to do it, I'll do it, and I'll fuck you up here in a little bit.
Okay. Ooh, man. Okay.
But yeah, she taunts him one last time. Chimere says that he can't do it, or she can't do that. They'll put her in prison. She retorts that if they won't if she tells them who she knows.
Who trained him, or who trained her? That's all the Jedi want to know as well. Like,
and does she know that?
I guess
was she able to shield her mind last week or a couple weeks ago?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
maybe
she if she's not talking about her master, she's talking about someone else. And either way, it's.
Did she say who or what she knows?
Who? Who she knows?
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. So I don't know. And Chimere says he'll kill you. Like, completely dead ass serious. Like, you can't fuck around like that. He'll kill you. And May responds that he won't if he can't find her, and she taunts him one last time, saying she really did need him to get this far, and he's left hanging. But after that, the Jedi go following in the direction of the scream as well, but come up empty, and Osha asks Sol what's going on when he was has a faraway stare, and then asks why he would let her confront May now, but not before on Olega. And he says that before she wasn't ready and that this is different. And Osha says she feels different. She senses things in a way that give her courage, the courage to face her sister. And Sol says that she won't be facing her. She'll be facing her past. Both of them will. He promises that when them and May are safely back on the ship, he will explain everything. Death warrant signed, sealed, delivered. We're never getting that fucking explanation, bro.
That's sad. I mean,
not directly from Sol, I should say.
And just the look on his face, too, was like, when I have to explain this to you, it's going to be bad, and I don't want to do it. So, like, no matter what, it's just bad. So maybe it is better if he just dies before he has to, but I'd rather Sol live. But yeah, that is kind of a sad thought. It is. Well, we did think Echo was done for sure with the gun that he gifted Omega. We thought, like, all right, Echo, we don't know when you're going, but see you later, bud.
That's true.
So maybe there's hope for Sol, but
there could be. But it's then that May stumbles onto Kelnaka's hut and trips and falls on presumably a trap set by Kelnaka and falls right in front of Basil. And Basil screams, alerting the Jedi to May's presence. They move to intercept, and Yord tells Osha to stay behind them, and May breaks for Kelnaka's hut and finds her way inside, where she is greeted by nearly no presence and finds Kelnaka with a lightsaber slash across the chest. She realizes he's here, and the sun sets as darkness falls on Kofar. Outside the hut, the Jedi arrive and ask that anyone in the hut surrender, and Yord calls May out specifically. It is then that Sol senses a presence behind them as a dark figure descends from the trees behind Osha, which looked fucking awesome.
Yeah, it looked.
Loved this. The figure comes into focus with a scarred mask and a mouth shaped like a demented smile. And Jackie asks, "What is that?" The figure lights up his saber in front of Osha, a bright crimson. Soul tells Osha to run, but she doesn't need to, as the masked figure simply flicks her out of the way, and stops the oncoming Jedi in one fell swoop. I don't think we've ever seen anyone do anything like this.
Like, this was almost like that comic panel of Vader, like, all I see around me is, scared and dead men, and then just boom, kind of just blows up and kills all of them. Or like a Star Killer kind of like outburst of energy. This was nuts. And to have Jackie say, "What is that?" Not who is that. It's like, what is that thing? It was so ominous. Like this, I mean, this was my favorite part of the episode for sure, is whenever May's kind of on the run. It's right whenever Basil yells out for them. May, and then from that point on until here, I'd say is kind of the end scene. And man, no, it picked up, and whenever like Soul lights his saber first, and then all the Jedi ignite behind him, and when they like did that little pull camera of all of them igniting at the same time,
that was hard.
That was my shot of the episode. I thought, like, you go back to Ahsoka and you see like the camera's just still, and you see the three people light their sabers holding and fighting, and it's very, I don't know, still not kinetic. But this is, we're in the woods. There's a set here. I don't know. It feels so good. This feels different. It feels real. It feels
dude, it was great.
So I don't know. I really loved the way the episode ended. That's for sure. It was looking very, very good at the end too. So I mean, I think that's even the people that don't like the show or have a lot of gripes with it. I have at least heard that they're like, well, the fighting and the action looks really, really cool, regardless. And I think that you can't lie. You can't hate cool and awesome visuals and action. That's just it's just purely visual there. And they're not failing on that department whatsoever. They're delivering kind of every time. And I can't wait until we see the actual brawl break out. I think we're going to lose some Jedi. We're losing a couple of them, I think.
And which main characters do you think we're losing?
Ooh, I really hope Soul doesn't go through this. I think he'll be the one to kind of like barely make it. Well, maybe he does go here, but Jackie has to make it out. There's no way Jackie dies.
That's the hope.
No way.
I'm worried about her. Yord's done.
You think?
Yeah.
He has to have an arc, man. He can't just be the annoying. He has to have like some moment that is like, oh my God, I have to change my ways. Everything I thought was wrong, sort of kind of moment. And I feel.
No, he doesn't. He won't.
Oh no, but he has to.
Even if he lives through this, no, he doesn't. That's what the Jedi become. He's like a perfect encapsulation of what the Jedi eventually are. Like it's. I don't think it is something that he'd be like, oh no, I didn't realize.
Maybe that means he lives then for sure. Maybe that's true. He's one of the masters that makes it through.
That's true.
Maybe that's actually a worse sign for Jackie than.
I think one of Jackie or Yord's done, if not both. And if both of them live through this, if we got a lot of extra Jedi, all of them are absolutely done. They don't stand a fucking chance.
Sorry.
They're fucking done. So it's one of those things where I'm okay if our three main make it out. I'm okay if Soul, Jackie, and Yord make it out. I want them to. It would feel a little. It'd be one of those things where I'm like, oh great, conveniently. It'd be like when in Game of Thrones when they all go north of the wall and they've got those extra dudes with them and they all manage to survive a whole bunch of shit. It's like,
True.
Okay, well, one of you was supposed to die here.
They do have May though now, which is interesting. May's probably going to fight against the Master here. Maybe, I don't know. Does she stay in the hut the whole time and then just let the Jedi and Master duke it out and then she comes out at the end? Or does she, she was planning on completely flipping against the Master and, kind of.
Yeah, maybe she fights him here. Or maybe she's the only one who knows they don't stand a fucking chance and doesn't even try.
She just starts to run. She's like, fuck. I mean, because if. The Master might be someone different. It could not be Q is the only Chimere. I don't know. It might not be him. Like maybe
Yeah,
it is
I think
too
there's a distinct
obvious.
possibility. I think that they are doing a thing that is like conveniently, oh, he's not there.
But
Oh, he's
he did slip up. He slipped up and said like, "I don't think
Mhm.
so." Oh, I mean, he literally did that though. So like,
He said we. He went we. Um,
okay,
like we didn't make a deal. I think it's that part.
I'll say it then but it's crazy. Does he collect people in the sense of that like May and Chimere aren't actually like
Autonomous.
yeah, and he's like kind of controlling them in a sense like he is mind kind of like what Luke does to force project himself but literally with another body, kind of like Doctor Strange take, I don't know, dream walking or whatever they called it in Marvel kind of thing, but just with another live body. And because part of me, I thought that like maybe this master, kind of is like a Scooby Doo villain in the sense that he actually isn't force sensitive, but makes himself seem force sensitive. But then the end of this episode came, and I don't really think you can fake what he did at the end. You can fake the floating down from the top of the trees, but then this little force
Yeah.
explosion thing he did, that's just the dude's force sensitive. So yeah, I don't know. That theory went out the window real quick. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe Chimere is actually just maybe he is just kind of like a pawn being controlled. Um Man, yeah, but because man, they made it very obvious kind of this episode. Like a little too obvious, and maybe
That's my thing. And that's the other thing too though is like is it like we came into this episode suspicious of Chimere. I will say before this episode the show hasn't exactly given us explicit reasons to be suspicious of Chimere. And then even in this episode, they don't technically give us any reason to be suspicious of Chimere beyond the fact that he's not there when the master is. Now, yes, there's a couple language things. He trips up on himself. He does, he changes the subject. He does all this. But I do think that because we already had the suspicion, it's overemphasizing the things
that's true.
that he does in this
Where
episode.
I is already on it. Yeah. Like
yes, but the other side of that, however, is that they almost certainly know that that's the case. They almost certainly know that in a mystery where we don't know the face of the master, we're going to be looking for who the master is. And right now, Chimere is the top candidate. Now, because of him being the top candidate, it almost makes me feel like he's actually the bottom candidate. Like he's actually the least likely because he's the most likely. You know what I'm saying? Either way, I'm cool. If it is Chimere, I think it'll be hella cool. If it's not Chimere, I think it'll be hella cool.
So what's his purpose? Who's Chimere if he isn't the master? He's not a May. He's not. I don't know. Like, is he just kind of like the resource guy, or kind of like a?
Yeah, what he tells Soul in the second episode. Like I help people get what they want.
Maybe it is just a web then. Yeah, but like.
I mean,
this master seems that his goal is just to kill as many Jedi.
He could be a Sith acolyte. He could believe in the Sith. Not, he does say, peace is a lie. He says a line from the Sith code in the second episode.
Okay. Yeah.
It could just be that he is a loyal servant of the Sith, not that he is a Sith.
Yeah, someone who's just not force sensitive can't be a fighter, a warrior to the cause, so you do what you can. I see. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's kind of weird that I'm more on the side of that he's not the master now. But man, it's going to I don't know. Whenever we get that helmet taken off, it's a sick character design though, regardless. And they made quite the villain, quite the the bad guy. And who knows, maybe this isn't even the top dog here. Maybe there's another master above him. Or whoever they are. Hmm. I mean, no shot. It's like it's like someone. What's the mom's name? The mean mom, the firm, not Anasea.
Oh yeah.
Because
Fuck.
like we didn't see her body, right? Like
No,
we
we
saw
did not. We did
Anasea's
not.
body. I remember, like in
Well, May or Osha sees
OSHA ran,
Anastasia body.
yeah, and then kind of ran away. And I think they're probably as good as dead, but I mean, I don't know.
No,
I could
It could be.
I could see. I forgot who the other mom is.
Here,
It's
I'll get it.
Coral. Is it Coral?
Something like that. That sounds right. I actually think
Margarita
you're on the money.
Levieva? Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. But
Yeah, I think you're right about Coral being the name, though.
but yeah, maybe I'll throw maybe that out there. That would be kind of a cool twist to kind of see maybe being like, I don't know how she goes Sith mode. But maybe if it is just she's using the thread as her power,
yeah.
but just has a red lightsaber and appears as a Sith instead
Well,
of.
I think that's the thing, though, is that the thread is still the Force. It's the same energy. It's the same power. And if she goes dark, she'll have the same capabilities as a Sith. And, maybe there is, while the Sith is we view it as the inverse of the Jedi, it actually is its own order. It is its own thing.
That's true.
It just happens that the Jedi are their main opposition. Like, I think any Force user could find itself in danger of becoming a Sith if they so choose. So like I could see that. I could still see that. And there's been a lot of points in the show to well, not a lot of points, but even this episode, Basil says like, who is he, or they, like talking about Basil. Osha says that about Basil. She's like, who there's been a lot of, because this character in a helmet and a voice modulator sounds like a man, he must be a he, and they all refer to him as he, even though a lot of them are thoughtful enough to go, or they, like, I don't know. But they're all just assuming. So I could see, given that we have had an express questioning of pronouns, that like maybe there is something that's like, and they've been maybe that like maybe meta wise, they're like the danger of assuming pronouns. Like it's like just play it safe.
The clear in the like this master seems very masculine, and if it is this is how bad I am. Coral. If it is Coral, it kind of plays into her hand perfectly of playing a Sith like a male, and just being I don't know, completely unexpected and everything, but
I don't know. It could be anything, and I brought up earlier how Kiadi Mundi, this could hold a little bit of a continuity error. But, it could be the case. He never sees the Sith. He just sees May. They question who trained May and stuff. Could be a splinter order, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe they deal with the Sith in private, or they think they deal with the Sith and they think it's over and they don't feel the need to, maybe it's council business. He's not on the council yet, it seems, as this is not the High Council. That's meeting there, So like, it's interesting because I'm still of the mind that this master is not the master. So if they deal with him and they deal with May, there's a decent chance they don't even think who the master's master is.
That's right. They're just like, well, this guy trained May. That's all we were looking for. No need to go higher, and that this has to be it.
There can only be two, etc. Like they get one, they found the other, but they are not thinking that she's not technically the other of the two.
Yeah, I guess it's just right before Plagueis, right? That we're kind of dealing. It's either late Plagueis or just kind of right before that. Who would be the Sith at the time?
It could
or...
also be Prime Plagueis.
Oh,
Because, I mean, this could be Plagueis' apprentice before Palpatine. You know, I don't know Plagueis' lifespan or anything, but it doesn't seem like
his loved ones from dying. So
kept himself, his loved ones. He did not figure that part out.
Yes, I guess.
That is the tragedy after all. But
yeah,
that's why I'm like, it could be that Plagueis is the master of this guy right now.
I mean, it would make sense if Plagueis is the master and this is kind of like the stem of what Palpatine learns or something like this. However Anakin was created. If it is just pure Force baby, I would kind of like that more, that the Force just needed to birth something and that Palpatine didn't have kind of like a specific role in it, whatever. But if they're kind of trying to connect the dots in any way, it would be pretty cool to kind of have some things that, Anakin wasn't the first, like this babies being born through the Force or through dark means, whatever, has been done before, and it didn't take a prophecy or whatever to I don't know, that it doesn't have to be this grand sort of thing, and it, like, people are saying that it ruins like the Star Wars we know, but it's like it gives you kind of more of a,
just expands on it,
more of like a prequel. It's like we wouldn't have Anakin's story without the prequels to Star Wars. That came.
There's also the fact that it literally hasn't affected it at all.
At all.
Zero. As of yet. Like... again, the Force Coven or the Thread Coven used the thread to create them versus Anakin being born of the Force, like even in the novelization of Plagueis, like the Plagueis novel, Palpatine and Plagueis experiment with the Force. They try to make it darker and darker. They try to do things to create darkness, but the Force balances itself out and creates Anakin. Like, that is like, so I don't know. I am curious. It would be interesting if May is the inspiration for her master's master, and it's kind of like, oh, maybe we could figure out how to create a being born of the dark side. Like maybe they try to create a dark side child that's just pure hate power. But even so, I don't know. I'm excited though. I can't wait to figure out more about this mystery. Can't believe we're already halfway done with the season. I'm so fucking excited, man.
Yeah. Do you think he's unmasked? Like next episode, he just does his killing and he's out. You think there's no way we get the unveil?
Well, and even
episode.
I don't think his identity is ever revealed to the Jedi.
Oh, ever?
I think that if it's revealed to somebody, it's May. And I think that's the best shot we have. It might be.
Do you think May actually doesn't even know who he is, and just her being like, "Hey, there is a Sith master," like just in general, that's enough to tell the Jedi? Like
that's true. That probably could.
That I don't know his identity or their identity. I think I'm going to operate under there right now too until I know. But like, I don't know who they are, but they're definitely practicing the anti of what you guys are. So,
they're not good.
But
no, I am curious as to what's going to happen, because we've got so many mysteries, we got so many threads that need to be tied up, and I'm excited. Yes.
Like the thread. The thread's just a cool visualization, I guess, kind of the Force, and it's a new contextualization as well. But yeah, I don't know. It is halfway through. I'm guessing next episode will be called Night, and we'll be starting with this fight. I hope, at least is
I got to imagine so.
But
maybe they managed to get a comm out and more Jedi show up. There's a clip from the trailer where Vernestra whips out the light whip on a forest planet.
That's true.
But in the light of day. So I'm like,
Oh, next
that's
day.
why I'm like,
they
like,
got to make it through the night.
they got to make it through the night type shit. So like that's why I'm like, there's also some other trailer stuff with like Jackie dual wielding sabers and stuff. It looks cool. It looks cool. But
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm gonna need to see that whip in action.
Yeah.
I guess it might not happen next episode, but maybe at the end of next episode when reinforcements come.
Maybe.
I guess that could be possible. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but I dig it. I'm loving it right now, and I'm excited to see where the rest of this goes. But yeah, I don't have much else to say on this episode, I don't think. But I'm going to do the plugs, and then after the plugs, we're going to answer our question of the week, which is if we could have rewritten any character in Star Wars' story, whose story would it be, and what would that story be? And then after that, I'm going to give a little review of Temptation of the Force, the new High Republic novel. I'm very, very excited for it. So if you would, head to patreon.com/pennybloom.pod, where you'll find over 100 hours of exclusive content, all sorts of book reviews, comic book reviews, movie reviews, and the like. That's where we're doing Penny Bloom Dispatch, where you can get that for free. For those that don't know, that are only here for the Star Wars podcast, we do a few shows. We're doing Cinema Surprise, and the Penny Bloom podcast is doing Fire and Bloom right now. We're covering House of the Dragon, and then movies every Friday on Penny Bloom and Cinema Surprise. It's a lot of fun. So that's all under the Penny Bloom banner. Go to patreon.com/pennybbloompod. Head to Twitter, follow @thefulcrumpod for any news as to what we're going to be doing. That's where you can find our Q&A forum. That's where you can ask us these questions that we answer every week. We would appreciate that greatly. You can leave a 5-star rate and review wherever you might be listening and download the episodes. I would appreciate that incredibly.
Just hit 25,000
downloads?
Yeah.
On Penny Bloom Pod?
2502. Just I don't know. So that's okay.
Huge big milestone. Big milestone. 25,000 all-time downloads on Penny Bloom Pod. Big deal. Big deal. You ought to be over there. But yeah, let's answer this question of the week. If there was any character in Star Wars whose story you could rewrite, who would that be?
At first, I thought I was going to go the meme route and say I wanted a true Darth Jar Jar or a drunken master and give him a real storyline and not just make him a joke. But no, I turned a little different direction and I went with Mace Windu. In the prequels, and specifically Revenge of the Sith, I think is mainly the rewrite where I would go. Give him a little more juice. I mean, it is Samuel L. Quite the actor there in the role, and I think if he would have sniffed out Padme and Anakin's relationship, sort of earlier on, or if he would have sniffed it out and maybe he knew, but he didn't tell Yoda or the rest of everybody, and he tried to, maybe there was some conflict between Mace and Anakin, I think could spice it up a bit. But and this isn't my idea. I wish I came up with this. I saw this just on a fan rewrite. But they said whenever the Jedi Council asks Anakin to spy on Palpatine, that at the same time Yoda asks Mace to spy on Anakin. And kind of this kind of double layer of spying that's going on. And while Anakin is, doing all of his spying on Palpatine, whatever, and becoming more and more like Anakin, Mace would be the one to be like, he is. It gives, I guess, more of a plausible, like he's the one who sniffs it out and why he's there. And I feel like his death at the end, I feel like it would be a straight up fight between Anakin and Mace. At the end there, and Anakin's the one to actually kill him for protection of, because Mace would know his relationship with Padme, Mace would know obviously about Palpatine, all of this stuff, and just maybe it's before the big debacle and everything goes down. But I would have liked to see, I guess, like a true Mace Windu versus Anakin would have been pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
And but I don't know, there is some deleted footage of what a Palpatine versus Mace was supposed to look like that I just saw not too long ago as well, and that was pretty sick. Of some choreograph, but yeah, I think I don't know, Mace. It could have been cool if he had just a little, I don't know, something a little more to him, in Revenge of the Sith. But
no, I dig that. That. Yeah, mine's also prequels. Mine was Padme. Padme Amidala. There's all sorts of stuff that I would love to change about Padme and Anakin's story. I think that for it being the central thread that ends up being the reason Anakin falls, it could be a lot better, in most regards. But not just that, Padme's characterization could have been a lot better, a lot stronger, a lot more singular, not just a whim, not just a tool used to further Anakin's storyline. First off, I wouldn't have had her be like, "Oh, honey, baby, it's okay," after he slaughters a village of people. That's
the women.
I need that to be the first rift in their relationship, not the first time she just goes ahead and goes, "Oh, baby, it's okay,"
Annie. Now let me give you a hug. Let me comfort you.
Yeah, like, I need. She's a principled woman. That is not something she'd be okay with, even in spite of the fact they murdered his mom, So that's something that needs to be fixed for me. Now, how that, like, I didn't rewrite the fucking prequels, in my head. I didn't go like, okay, well, how does that ripple out? How does that affect the end of that movie? That's just always been so piss poor to me. I hate it. I hate it really bad. And then beyond that, I just would have made her a part of Revenge of the Sith. A notable character who does something. In deleted footage and an extended cut of Revenge of the Sith in the deleted scenes, she is extremely important in laying the groundwork for the rebellion. And I would have loved to see her actually lay the groundwork for the rebellion. So that is absolutely something I would have made a priority. It wouldn't have just slid by the wayside and been something I was willing to delete if I made those movies. But so that's a big thing. Like the way that it ripples out in my head is that maybe it's not a cold turkey thing. Maybe it's not like a, oh well, I can never, after he slaughters the village, be like, okay, well, I can never fuck with you. Like, maybe it is sort of the relationship isn't the healthiest, as Anakin is extremely obsessive, but maybe it is cold turkey, and maybe Anakin can't let her go, and it is his possessiveness, his attachment, his one-sided attachment that makes it even easier for him to slip to the dark side. His love for her is insurmountable, and he can't let go, and maybe he sees a vision of her dying, and that pushes him further down,
I feel like
yeah,
Padme would just be fearful of Anakin as well. Kind of just like maybe that's why she's not being so principled and direct with him right away. Maybe it is just kind of like a, well, if I do say the wrong thing, maybe he goes crazy. I know he loves me and all, but like he did just murder a village of women and children and everything. So I don't know, maybe if they went down that angle more of like just being afraid of the guy.
Just a little bit different of a writing thing, because it's clear she's not fearful of him. She's just like, oh no, honey baby, my sweetie, my sweetums, oh no, poor guy.
Don't do that again, please. Yeah. But that would have been, been
and
nice
like I'm not trying to eliminate the nuance of the situation, but when you slaughter a village, nuance is somewhat lost on me. So
yeah.
That's something that I just don't think Padme would have been okay with. I know she witnessed, his relationship with his mom when he was younger. She saw how much he loved her. But like,
doesn't justify it. There's
you don't
nothing that
kill
justifies
an entire village of people. And I don't think Padme would think it would either. It's astonishing that after that she's able to just fall head over heels in love with him and marry him on Naboo.
Yep. I mean, when he explicitly says the women and the children
children too.
I slaughter them like animals.
Animals.
He didn't leave it up to question.
But they're not animals. They were living humans, or not humans. They were people, They were existing, and you stopped that existence, Like, I don't know. Yeah, like, yes, what they did was brutal, but what you did was worse.
Greatest Jedi ever, right?
Yeah, supposedly. Actually, the greatest Jedi ever's in this book right here. Not going to cap with you. That's where my money's at. I love Temptation of the Force. But yeah, if I was going to rewrite any story, it would be Padme's. Kind of, no doubt. Because she resembles a blend of Luke and Leia, but goddamn, she could so much more. And it would be really nice to rework that. But yeah. With that, I think I'm going to go ahead and head into my Temptation of the Force review. I'll start spoiler-free, so you can stick around for this. If you have not read The High Republic, you are missing out. That's the bottom line. That's why I'm having Joe abandon us whenever I get into spoilers, because we're also in the main, quote-unquote, main continuity of High Republic novels, the adult, not the young adult, but or not the middle grade, but the novels. This is the 5th one, and the very premise of it is spoiling the shit out of stuff that came before it. Because it's a sequel, it's a natural. So I can't even really get into that. But
gotcha.
What I can say is it is probably my favorite High Republic novel yet, which makes it probably my favorite Star Wars novel yet. I finished it, and I knew I wanted to cover it. So I was going to reread it anyway, but I really wanted to reread it. It wasn't like it was like, well, I have to reread it. I've read the book twice since last week.
That's nuts.
And that's how good it is, though. It's not something I do. That's not something I typically want to do. But god damn, this has some of the best emotional payoffs in the entire High Republic. It does the most interesting work with the main villain, Marchion Ro, in a while, probably maybe ever, probably since the first couple books. Vernestra is an awesome character in it. We're talking about the Acolyte. She's wonderful in it. But the main story, as it concerns the greatest Jedi of all time, Avar Kriss, and another Jedi, Elzar Mann, is so fulfilling. It is so fulfilling. I love it so much. We got a great Wookiee Jedi in these as well, Burryaga. He gets a few point of view chapters. He's been kind of, not a side character, he's been important, but he hasn't had like chapters told through his point of view, and we got a few of those this time, and I absolutely love those, because he's so empathetic, and he's so loving and caring that, like, even the greatest villainous forces, he hates that he can view them with empathy, but he can. It's just his strength.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's
no,
cool.
he's very cool. I love that. And there's the strength of the High Republic has always been its ability to make the non-Jedi heroes. And we get a few of those in this, in previous books, we got the crew of the vessel I've told you about, Geode and Leox Jossi, and
that I don't know.
Exactly. And Joss and Pika Adrian. In this one, we get introduced to a gentleman named Ker Santeca. And Ker Santeca is an absolute hero. I absolutely adore him. Not Force sensitive, but he is in the family of the Santecas, which, if you recall in The Force Awakens, the gentleman who's like, to me, she is royalty, is Lor Santeca. So he's a descendant of Ker in some capacity. And they believe in the Force. They do. That's something they abide by. So it's cool to see him kind of try to emulate the light as much as he can while not being in touch with it. And then same with the Chancellor of the Republic, Lena. So they're not. The books aren't candid about how iffy politicians can be. But she's awesome, and she continues to be awesome in this book. I love the themes of how love is expansive, not limiting, and how every day we get to choose. We choose every day. Once you make a decision, as final as it may feel, it's not final. You have to choose it every day. You have to choose the light every day. And that's one of the cool things about the Jedi Council in this book, is that it's absolutely the most understanding the Jedi have ever been. And I absolutely adore that.
Yeah.
So I love Temptation of the Force. And here in a moment, I'll get into a little bit more of a spoilery review. But yeah. Okay. Well, Temptation of the Force was utterly brilliant. The main thing that I am going to talk about, if you've listened to the Penny Bloom podcast, you know that I am a sucker for romance, and a Forbidden Jedi romance. I don't think there's a better idea for me than that, and especially between Avar Kriss and Elzar Mann. The romance that was built up and has been building between them for 4 books now, paying off in this one, hit like an absolute truck. I loved everything about it. From the get-go, chapter 1 of this book, them, hanging out, clicking up, her bringing the pastries, but there being 3 in the box, and the lingering memories of Stellan. Oh my God, it just hit me. It hit me like a truck, and it was so needed. I know that the Eye of Darkness was the true beginning of this phase, and it's the direct sequel to Fallen Star. But I don't know, there's something about this that feels even more like a sequel to Fallen Star. It feels like we are reckoning with the consequences of that book much more directly than Eye of Darkness did. There was still so much more, there was another travesty when it came to Eye of Darkness. It was like, okay, now we got to figure out the storm wall. Oh, we're all separated. Oh, we all got to deal with this. Oh, we all got to do this. We're back together. We get to deal with the tragedies that have incurred. And I absolutely love the way Elzar and Avar are able to confide in each other here. And there's just there's such a casual familiarity between them that's just so obviously loving that I absolutely adore immediately. And immediately in this book, Avar realizing she's ready, realizing that she's in love with him, as the book puts. In the first chapter, it made her stronger. Like, I love that. And I love the way this book looks at love. The way Avar tells Elzar later on that love isn't limiting. It's expansive. He says, what'd she say later on? It's too easy of an answer to say love is attachment, that it's selfish. It isn't. Those things are real and dangerous to Jedi, but they aren't love. In her worst moments, she loved Elzar. In her greatest grief and failure, she still loved Elzar. It didn't turn her down the wrong path. It's what got her back on her feet. That's love, and it's the purest form of light. Love makes the galaxy bigger, and the other things make it smaller. It expands us. Oh my God. Thank fucking God. It's been a while since a book captured the way, or since any Star Wars has captured the way the Jedi should look at love. And this is exactly on the fucking money. Like, this is precisely it. And further than that, I love when Elzar goes to Yoda with it. When he goes to Yoda, and by proxy the council, and he tells Yoda that Avar told him she loves me. And the way he deals with that, the way he's like, what do you think of this? And telling him that every day they have to choose the light. Every day they have to choose what is right for them and what is right for their relationship to the Force. They have to choose this every single day. And, oh my God, my dogs, I'm sorry about it. Having a tough time focusing with them barking up there. Him being like, your parents, when they sent you to the Order, do you feel like they loved you any less because of that? He goes, no, I think they loved me all the same. And him realizing that love and attachment are different things. They still loved him, but they weren't attached to him, and they let him go off in the galaxy. They probably think about him every day, and they are distinctly separate. And I appreciate them finally acknowledging something like that. And I love that Elzar kind of embodies what Anakin could have been, what Anakin Skywalker could have been had he not been manipulated by Palpatine. had his balancing force, his buoy to the light, been stronger than his buoy to the dark. And when you have Palpatine in your corner, the buoy to the dark is going to be a little stronger. And Elzar kind of represents the inverse of that. And I think that that's an absolutely brilliant way to make these characters the most interesting they've ever been, because I've liked Elzar and I've loved Avar and I've loved Elzar. I have, but they've never been as awesome and as amazing as characters as they are in Temptation of the Force. And they're not the only ones. I mentioned earlier that Burryaga, his expansion, his point of view chapters, they hit me like a truck in this one. Burry's, dealing with his personal grief, by way of helping the Owens, with their blight and their relationship to their trees and their planet and the similarity it possesses to the Wookiees and Kashyyyk and stuff. But him remembering back in the cave, him having nightmares about him just pulling out his hair, him having nightmares of self-harm, and it's so sad because he's so sweet and you want what's best for him. And the continued expansion of his relationship with Belle really, really resonated with me. I've always appreciated these two, and I feel like, again, we're past the tragedy, and we're dealing with it. And that's when we get to feel these characters flesh themselves out a little more. And I feel like Burry got the most expansion he's ever gotten. And by proxy, the relationship between him and Belle got the most expansion it's ever gotten. And I absolutely adored them. I thought that their kinship and the way that they balance each other and the way they, the way Belle has to be honest with him at points where he's like, what you're doing isn't enough. And that kind of hitting Burry like a truck, but it's just the truth, like you reached for the blight and you held the blight off. You did this for 5 hours and you barely did anything. We need to get back. We need to do something. And I appreciate that Burry's love of life, his need to protect, is so strong that even that didn't really convince him, but he recognized it's what he had to do. And it's wonderful, man. And that's the strength of this book, is the relationships, the relationship dynamics. I loved, Care and Xylan, Care Santeca and Xylan Graf. That's a complicated one. That's not as cut and dry as a few of these others. The two sides of completely different coins, Care and Xylan, but there still being that remnant love, I guess, that they have for each other. It's hard to even quantify, because this was the only thing that, in contrast to the previous book, Defy the Storm, which I also love, by the way, they did feel like a little bit of a brand new couple. Not like crazy, but there was, like, I got the impression in Defy the Storm that their relationship was much simpler than this book makes it. But again, that expansion makes it all the more interesting. I love the way Care is a hero. He wants to do the right thing. Santecas think with their hearts. And I love that Xylan has his motivations. He has his angle. But there's still that lingering sense of him where he will protect Care if he can. And I think it's wonderful. And I love the way Avar perceives that. I love the way Avar perceives Care. And on the flip side, I love the way Elzar perceives Lena So and her love for her son. And that kind of inspiring him and realizing, oh, you know what? Love does make her stronger. She can go towards the light. Yeah, it works. It works on every level. I'm sorry if I'm stuttering over my words. I don't usually do podcasts by myself. I usually have someone to bounce off of, but Joe over here, he can't hear me, so I'm going to talk shit. Joe over here, I told him to start the High Republic novels forever ago, and he refuses. I need him to do it. No, it's okay, though. But yeah, the heart of this book is Elzar and Avar, and their embrace, specifically when it came to Naboo, after them taking down the lightning crash and temporarily disabling the storm wall. her running to him, embracing him, and kissing him in front of everybody. Like, no qualms, no worries. This is the only thing on her mind. The amount of times yearning is said in the book, I absolutely love it. They yearn for one another. And I love their balance and the way they describe what they have as their balance in the Force. She brings him down to earth, and he does the same for her. They are balancing forces. Her song and his ocean, and the way that they interact, it's one and the same, and I absolutely adore it. And I also love the confirmation that Stellan was their third. They shouldn't have been fighting the Nile. They should have been getting 3 tickets to Challengers, you know. And there wasn't any confirmation in that regard. In a real sense, Stellan never really took part. But they said at some point in this book, you know, they remember flirting with Stellan and his ears turning pink when he didn't want to flirt back, and it's so cute, you know, like and it makes perfect sense. I adored them. I love their dichotomy, and I can only imagine what it would have been if it was a trichotomy. I wish, because I love these characters, and they deserved all the happiness in the worlds. Yeah, Elzar and Avar, man. And then ultimately their story culminating in their battle against the Nameless, and the way Avar and Burry empower Elzar to do what needs to be done, and realizing, kind of in retrospect, the obvious answer to fighting the Nameless was working together, you know, overcoming that fear, trying to figure out a way to battle it. And obviously it was draining. It took everything out of Avar, but it's what they need to do to face the Nameless, you know, and I'm curious if it's something that how much they're going to expand upon it, and how much the Nameless are even going to be a factor once the Blight comes into play, because the intrigue with the Blight was the other most interesting part of this book. I mentioned in the spoiler-free review that this is the most interesting Marchion Ro has been in a while for me. I love Marchion Ro. I think he's an incredible villain, one of the best villains that Star Wars has to offer up. But his shtick had grown a little stale. His whole thing for me, I was just kind of like, okay, I fucking get it, man. As he got bored, I got bored, you know? And him being reinvigorated with this new sense of purpose, and his whole story being dedicated to the study of this blight. I absolutely loved it. Every chapter, even the chapters that aren't about him investigating the blight, his thoughts are dwelling with the blight because his visions of Marta are showing him the blight. And I think that that's so fucking cool. And now I'm curious as well how far they're going to take this back, where the blight stems from. It almost seems like Marta has a connection to it. I'm incredibly excited, and I'm so glad that we actually see him. We don't see him. We read him seeing Marta. I think that's so cool. And one of my favorite little mentions in this book is that he wishes at times that instead of seeing his great grandmother or seeing his father, he'd see Mari Santeca. I think that's a cool little detail about the person who did the most for him. You know, these two never did shit for him, but Mari gave him all the power in the galaxy. And I think that was a cool sentiment, and I love the way that his whole story builds all the way up to Coruscant, ultimately in the end, and the brief face-off he has with Little Jedi, Vernestra Ro. I want to give Mark Thompson, the narrator of the audiobook, a ton of credit. I love the way he narrates these books, and bro was in that booth getting freaky for some of this stuff, specifically when Avar and Elzar were, it happened whenever they consummate their love, if you will. There's a lot of language that's, they're not technically having sex yet, but they might as well be, I'll tell you that. The aligning of their heartbeats, and the breathing in and out and in and out. Like, okay, sure, that's what's going in and out is breath. But no, regardless, I fucking loved it, man. This is the most I've loved a High Republic book since Phase 1. Phase 1 has this, I've got rose tinted lenses when I'm looking at Phase 1, man. And I love Phase 2 as well, but Phase 1 is what made me fall in love with Star Wars books, period. These were the first Star Wars books I read. And I mean, when I read Light of the Jedi, I fell in love. You know, like these characters, I dread the day we no longer get High Republic books about these characters, or High Republic books, period, because, and I know the story's got to come to an end, and I appreciate that it has to come to an end, and it should, and it will, and I'll be happy to read it, and I'll be so happy we got the story at all. But goddamn, I've grown so attached to these, people, and I absolutely adore them. I love Vernestra's relationships kind of sprawling. Her connection with Avar that she has in this book, where they confide in each other about the Nameless and their contact with them, and her relationship with Burry and Bell kind of growing. We got the next wave, the next generation kind of crystallizing in this one, with Vernestra, Bell, and Burry working together on so many occasions. I loved that. And I just thought that was so cool. The other big one, the rivalry. The rivalry of Porter Angle versus General Vise. I read the Blade comic and I fucking loved it. And to see this followed through, to see it follow through on so thoroughly was so fucking cool. He wanted her dead, man. And I love that there's so much focus in any given storyline that it feels the tightest of any High Republic novel. You know, I got to give Tessa Gratton the respect. Their writing here was utterly incredible, and I think that the focus Porter has on General Vise and his chase of her and his wanting to fight her and his pull to the dark side, not being able to give in to his anger, but then hearing the message from Avar and them taking down the lightning crash and taking down the storm wall. I think he keeps getting these beams of hope, and I love the way Avar describes his song in the Force, a consistent light, and then she goes, no, relentless, a relentless hum that feels ancient, like a 1,000-year-old sun, and I love that, man. I think that that's so fucking cool, and that's kind of all. I don't have a single bad thing to say about this book. Not in a true sense. If there was anything that I was kind of like, some of the stuff is a little easy. Whenever they're talking about the home key and how they need the home key to infiltrate the lightning crash, and as long as they have the home key, everything's going to be okay. It kind of blew my mind that it didn't occur to the Jedi that they could just change the home key. Which I don't know. You know, like, yeah, Xylan should have told them that, but obviously he had his own motivations and stuff. But I don't know, that felt very, like, I started going, well, maybe he can't change the home key if they don't even think it's a possibility. But then he just changes the home key, which I was like, okay, yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen. I don't know why they didn't think that was possible. But anywho, I loved that storyline all the while. I love the moment when Marchion Ro looks at the carved into his skin home key and remembers Mari showing him the path, and I think that that's such a cool moment. I think that there's just so much to like here, and I'm incredibly thankful that I have this book now, because man, does it hit like an absolute truck. Let's see, what else might I have left out? Let's talk about Gira Staros. God damn, I hate Gira Staros. I get it, man. The conversation she has with Avon is really illuminating for her character. She has a great desire to protect the Hosnian system. She wants to protect Hosnian Prime, and the way she can do that is allying herself with what she perceives to be the winning side. But it shows why Avon is just so much better of a person than she is when she says, I'd rather be proud of you, and the underlying sentiment being, even if you were dead. I love it. Gira, I think there's an element to her that thinks she's in it for the right reasons. But there is there's obviously a power-hungry greed to her that she is emanating at so many points in this book. You know, she even tells Avon, like, I'm going to accumulate so much power that nobody can ever take it away. You know, and maybe that was born originally of wanting to protect Hosnian Prime, but it's clearly evolved. And I just can't stand her, man. I want to like her a lot. I want to like her more. But damn, it's hard. I just don't fuck with the villainous side, you know? And she's an incredibly written character. And I think that she is so interesting, and I want more of her story. I want to make that perfectly clear. But there's almost, when it comes to villains, I almost respect outright villainy more than trying to act like you're doing the right thing by allying yourself with the villainous force to get what you want done. You know, it reminds me of Belloc in Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's like, no, I'm not a Nazi, I just work with the Nazis. It's like, well, you know what that makes you, right? Makes you a Nazi. So I think that there's this element to Gera where she views herself as beyond the Nile. She views herself as more than the Nile. She views herself as what the Nile could be. She refuses to see what the Nile are. You know, when she talks to Lena So and Elzar Mann at that dinner, and she says, you know, like, she makes her political argument that, you know, there will always be outliers. There will always be cartels and these people who don't fit into Republic space, and they need a place to operate. Sure. But that's not how it's going to work in Nile space either. You know, like, she's fooled herself into thinking that Marchion Ro will actually ever let her rule. Actually ever let her govern. This is clearly not what Marchion Ro wants. And I think we're about to see a major shift in that direction. And I'm glad Gera ultimately did do the right thing, that Avon was able to convince her through love, as Elzar says. It hit hard, and I absolutely adored it. But, yeah, now let's see. I mean, we're 25 chapters deep when the lightning crash goes down and the storm wall gets taken down. And I remember reading it for the first time going, well, fuck me. I still got 40 chapters left. The High Republic has conditioned me so hard that everything in this book goes so good for so long that I was like, when is the awful thing going to happen? When is the awful thing going to happen? Porter nearly dies so many times. I'm like, when's the awful thing going to happen? Avar gets hit in the back by a nameless. You think she's done for. She's not. When's the awful thing going to happen? You know, and it just keeps building and building and building, and it never really happens. And I think that's what makes it such a fulfilling read for me. But all it means is that we're in for a fucking disaster soon. And I'm extremely concerned for when that's coming, because goddamn, I love this book for it being the least tragic of the books. But man, is there a lingering sense of danger with the blight coming and Marchion arriving on Coruscant and letting the, you know, there's a line Marta says to her nameless, actually, where she says, let's see. I took it down because it was so good. Yes, she says, you never know what flowers are hiding, which when he steps off his ship on Coruscant, he's got the flowers in his hand and they crumble into dust at the end. Oh, man, it's exciting. The intrigue is there. The romance is there. The drama is there. The triumph is there. And I'm so excited to see more of how we battle the Nameless and how we can possibly defeat this blight. And I'm so excited for the next one. I'm always excited for the next one. I'm ready for the next one, man. And I love it. So if you read Temptation of the Force, or if you didn't, you don't care, and you just listened along with me, you should read it, and you should read all the High Republic, and you're missing out if you don't. But yeah, I think that will be the end of my spiel, and we can go ahead and sign off here. But yeah, so we'll be back next week with the Acolyte, Season 1, Episode 5. I'm so very excited. No new Star Wars book this week, so I won't be giving you a little review there. But it was nice to talk Temptation of the Force for a little bit. And if there's anybody out there, any listeners who fuck with the High Republic and ever want to hit us up, come on, talk about it. I could talk about the High Republic for days. And I could have talked about this for longer, but we're coming up on 2 hours on this episode, so I figured it's fine. Yeah. Like I said, we'll be back next week with Season 1, Episode 5 of The Acolyte. This Friday on Cinema Surprise, we are discussing The Book of Eli, and then we are covering on Penny Bloom Podcast on Mondays, House of the Dragon. So, House of the Dragon and The Acolyte, we're doing a nice little back and forth. Stick with us. You won't be disappointed. I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to have you. And remember, for light and life.